Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Soulmate Connection. And I'm going to be sharing this exciting story of my friend Amy, who's here with us today, Amy Schoen. She's also a love and relationship coach. And I just love her story of how she met Alan, her husband. Again, like every story is unique. And what I'm finding with a lot of these stories is that there's no one way to meet your soulmate, but yet when you're really focused, when you're really intentional, anything and everything is possible. So welcome, Amy.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And now you've been married for 15 years and
Almost
you have an 8-year-old son, almost 15 years. Oh my goodness.
9, yeah.
Almost 9. Okay. So that's so great. I mean, and so tell me a little bit about like your own love journey. I know you got divorced when you were in your 30s and
So I was married out of grad school in my 20s. It was 25 when I got married the first time.
Uh-huh.
And we just grew apart, wanted different things. And I ended up getting divorced in my mid-30s. So there I was, and I didn't have children in my first marriage. And that was really the heartbreak for me because I always envisioned, it was the disappointed dream.
Mm-hmm.
I envisioned myself to be married with a family.
Mm-hmm.
And so here, I was 35. I actually was starting to talk about having children with my ex, and that was the beginning of the end. Like, did not see himself. First of all, having children with me, or I don't think he has children to this day. So there was something there that I didn't, understand. And, yes, we had some conversations early on, but I think, when you get married too young, you're not really formed and you really think you know what you want. But sometimes life brings you along a path that you never expected. So here I am. I was 36 and going through a divorce. And I've always saw myself in a relationship. I had serial relationships through high school, college. I was one that I wasn't really without a boyfriend for too long. I'm an extrovert. I like to be with people. I'm an ENFJ on the Myers-Briggs, so we're all about relationships. So when I went through my divorce, I worked with a therapist because I had to, work through the loss of my marriage. It wasn't something I planned. It was something that my ex-husband kind of initiative. So here I was. And, looking back, we just really weren't a great fit. And it's really interesting because the work I do with my clients now with their values, our values were so misaligned. It wasn't even funny. And our goals were, but he was a yes person. So he just told me what I wanted to hear. And there are people out there like that. So you have to be careful. So, I worked with a therapist and, and I then wanted to put myself back out there. And actually, I joined a support group for people going through divorce and, so we're separating, going through a divorce. And I actually, met some people through that, but I really wasn't ready. And when I was working with my therapist, though, I just, we just were working on a lot of the grieving at that time. I actually lost my father to an accident. And so there was a lot of loss at that time and I had to work through. So I really wasn't ready. And so, there's really something about being ready to receive a new relationship in your life and really kind of closing the door and being ready to move forward. And, but yet I wanted a relationship and I wanted a family. And, I was the poster child for being motivated to marry. And so, I did miss opportunities. I met some really nice men who were interested in me. I'm outgoing and, I do attract a lot of, more quiet guys. And I just, I kind of like shoved them aside. One I told, he's a really sweet guy. He would have been a really good husband. And I said, well, let's just be friends first, because I wanted to get to know him and I didn't want things to go too quickly, but he was so motivated. And it's funny, he ended up with another woman from my support group who was,
oh my God,
who was divorced with a young child.
Wow.
Ready to move forward. So, she got him,
So, there's this myth that it's hard to find commitment oriented men. It's just not true, right?
Not true. No. And especially, I mean, I think, a lot of the women that you come into contact, they're, in their 30s and stuff. And that's when the men, are looking.
Yeah.
When you get their careers on track. I have a nephew and he's in his early 30s and he's still trying to build a business. So, even though he has a very significant relationship, he's committed to the relationship, but, the marriage thing is not really in that place yet. So, and transitions take a good 2 years, there's some good books about that. And so, I had to go through my process and all that.
Yeah. And also I'm sure during that process, you were kind of like learning new things about yourself, almost like going through a death and rebirth.
I really came out. I developed, my ex-husband was an introvert. We didn't have a big social life. And I discovered a whole world out there. And I really got involved with everything. There's a book called Crazy Time about how you come relationships and you just like, so I did meet this guy. We had a great love affair. Then I realized he wasn't right for me.
Uh-huh.
He had the ex-wife from hell. And, there were some things that I just couldn't live with, and it's learning what you can live with and what you can live with.
Right.
But, he really liked me. But I really wasn't. I just said, this is not going to work.
Right.
And he had a young boy and, I didn't want to get involved in all that drama. And so, I moved on and I was kind of, again, pretty serial. I call myself haphazard. I was like, not really discerning.
Haphazard.
And I just like, you're cute. And, and then I find out things about these guys. I'm like, oh my God, I can't deal with this, or I can't deal with that, or whatever.
Right.
Meanwhile, I actually met my now husband. We went to a Jewish singles dance in the DC area. That's where I live.
Yeah.
We talked, we exchanged numbers. The funny thing is he walked out with another woman. And I was walking alone to my car, and he was walking with this other woman. I'm like, okay. So anyway, and he called me up, and we went on one date. And I owned at the time a women's clothing store. And
really, I had no idea.
I had a boutique for 13 years.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool.
So yeah, I had buying trips, things like that. So we had a great date, and he never called me back. And later I find out he perceived me as being too busy. A lot has to do with their perception. So he had his prior relationship was with someone who he had a hard time getting a date with. And I have male clients. I coach a lot of male clients, and they complain that these women never make time for them. And that's one of my top dating mistakes is, you
make time.
Guys want to make time for
them. Make time for love.
Especially the introverted ones. Anyway, so he never asked me out on another.
Wow.
So, meanwhile, I was working on myself, and I'm very proactive, and I'm a problem solver.
I know you're a go-getter. You're an MBA. You did engineering, so you're just like this,
So like, okay, I made a mistake,
Yes. How can I learn? What do I do next?
I don't have the right information now.
Right. Yes.
I was part of this group for divorce groups. And there's a lot of learning opportunities and networking with people who I kind of lost you. People who are in the same place. And so I went to my New Beginnings group for people going through separation. And that was my go-to place. I think it's important to have a support group.
I totally agree.
And whenever I was like, I broke up with a guy, I'd go back to New Beginnings. And they had meetings all the time. You're just hanging out with people in similar situation.
It's great.
Kind of like my little home base,
Yeah.
So through that, I met actually my coach. So here I am in my late 30s, now pushing 40. Had some relationships, usually lasting between 3 months to 6 months and that kind of thing. And I really wanted a family. And I was like, this is not working. I even hired a matchmaker, which I have to say, you have to be really careful. You can waste a lot of money. And they can only do so much for you. I mean, I know there's some good people out there, But if you look at the numbers, and for me, 75% of my successful clients met their partners online. So, you know, you have to kind of look at what's really happening, where the people are, where the men are. You have to look at where the men are. So I did Jewish singles events. I joined groups and activities. I did a bowling league. I played volleyball. You know, I was on a biking group. So it was called Bike and Branch. So, you know, I did online dating when it opened up. I did J-Date. I did classifieds at the time. You know, our newspapers in the area, the Washingtonian had classifieds. And, you know, I tried everything.
You did it all. You weren't gonna
any stone unturned.
Exactly.
So, you know, I wanted to get married and wanted to have a family. So when I turned 40, I hired a coach.
Awesome.
And yeah, so I really had to kind of work on, you know, I was pushing away good guys. I was being judgmental. I had some limiting beliefs about men. And as it turned out, my husband was 47, never married. So, but I was walking around with the little message, if you're 40 and not married, there must be something wrong with you.
Right.
So, but, you know, it's funny. I just actually had we had a kind of discussion in one of my groups about, you know, and he says, I'm 50. What do you think of me? You know, to the women in the group, because I have both men and women in my groups. And it's really interesting. My whole thing, my philosophy is you have to look at the person and see where they come from and their journey.
Yeah.
What I really liked was my husband was working on himself, and he was going to a therapist. He was in a group. And so he really wanted to be married, and he, you know, and I have that personal growth value, and so does he. So, you know, that was a really kind of a connection piece. So, you know, I had to work on my self-esteem because my ex-husband really kind of stepped on that. And so, you know, eventually I show up at this, you know, I was 41. I showed up at the Bike and Brunch meeting. And this is where you go on this little bike ride and you meet and have a barbecue. You meet to eat, you know, together. And a lot of my girlfriends, you know, I was in this group for like 5 years, you know, and they all were like saying, you get all these, you know, people who kind of have these little attitudes and you got to watch these people. You really have to kind of push them away. But they're like, you know, we come here and we meet the same guys and, you know, there's, you know, it's the same old. I'm like, okay, but it's not true. You know, if you looked around, there are new people, but they actually.
I think one thing you're pointing out is like, it's important to stay positive, right? There's always going to be people around you, especially when you're single and you're hanging out with all these girlfriends who are single too, and everyone's like, oh, this sucks, and it can turn into a pity party really quickly, right?
Yeah, I had to divorce a whole group of girlfriends.
Sure.
Because they were just not supportive, and I need to be supportive, affirming people.
Yeah.
Get down on the whole dating thing.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want to be in the bitch moan place. That's not
like, what's the point? Totally.
I was trying to stay positive.
Yeah.
Bring energy to me.
Yeah.
So I went on, I met up my husband. He realized we were going on a weekend with this group, and he signed up for the weekend.
Wait, so where did you meet your husband?
Well, this biking brunch group.
Oh, so he was in the group.
Well, he showed up.
Oh, he just showed up. Got it.
He had been in a relationship.
Okay.
Often. And so, you know, and I had just come out of a relationship.
Right.
It seemed what I call my almost not quite relationship.
Not quite relationship. What is that?
That is basically when there's a lot of good stuff there. He's a nice guy. You know, we share a lot of values, but there's some intrinsic things that are not going to work. And so, you know, it was not going to work.
Okay. So how did you know? Did you just have this feeling like?
No, I knew.
You knew. Well, okay.
If you ever want to know about someone, go travel on a trip with them.
Right?
Don't go for a weekend. And have access to leave on your own, because I had the most nightmarish situation where a guy was driving. I realized anger management issues. I'm like, let me out of the car. And he said, no.
Oh my goodness.
And I had to be on this trip for the weekend. And I'm like, how the hell I almost like was going to go like call my girlfriend to pick me up or something. But I went, it was okay. And then I dumped,
Totally. I remember going on a trip to Barcelona with a guy and I cried every day. And I'm like, why am I here?
That's
like, this is a nightmare. Yeah. But you know what? We broke up as soon as we came back and I'm like, greatest trip ever. Wise investment, because I thought I was going to marry this guy. Totally.
So then this guy, we went on a ski trip and that was not horrible, but there were some things I'm like, no, this is not going to work.
Right. And being married before, I'm sure gave you some, I don't know, like you kind of gone through the goods and the bads of relationships. I have
to say, I went into his group program.
Yeah.
And then I worked with him individually because I'm the kind of person who needs my stuff worked on.
Sure. So do I. I love one-on-one.
Okay, nice to know, but
yeah.
Me,
my problems. Yes.
So so I got really clear. One of the things I really liked about the coaching and I look at relationships as a feedback loop and when I work with my clients, we do this process and look, what didn't work? What do we need to do differently? And what do we need to do to keep you safe, and set newer boundaries for yourself. It's really about tightening your boundaries, but also leaving flexibility as well. Because when I do, and you may do this exercise too, I have this must-have or would like to have exercise. Some things are would like to have and not must-haves. And some things should be must-haves that you have as would like to haves. So we're really tightening up what you're, and people say, oh, but you have lists. And I'm like, you know what? You need to check in with yourself. You need to see, is this going to work for me?
Sure. And
I'm kind of like, really practical, person with understanding this energy, So I kind of see myself as I went to a California coaching school. So that's a little bit of the woo-woo with the practice. East Coast girl who grew up in New York, living in Washington.
With an MBA, sure.
Yeah, the whole process thing. So I was a very active dater. I needed to get crystal clear. I needed to find somebody who got me. And because that being an entrepreneur, and this, not everyone can handle us.
Right. Free-spirited women who love
understanding and supporting. Yes. So a lot of the men wanted the women to be there for them, and I'm just not the trophy wife. I can dress up like a trophy wife. I can go to a party. I can talk to anyone.
It's funny. I told my husband that too. I'm like, I'm not some typical wife, I'm me,
That's what you want. And that's really what
exactly.
And that's how his mother was. So if you want to know something about a guy, his mother, okay?
Oh my God, what a great piece of advice. My mother-in-law is so awesome. She's so free-spirited. I'm like, yes, thank you, God. Yeah.
Well, I had a very sweet woman. I don't think I'm more like his father, actually.
Okay.
You could do a whole thing on Imago's therapies and stuff like that, but he gravitated to me because I'm his Imago match, like his mother. No, that's for another story. So timing's everything. And so I had just broken up. He had just broken up. And we went on this weekend to Cape May, New Jersey, where we went biking. And he wasn't on the top of my radar list. There were some other guys I was kind of, very strategic checking out. And we had a dinner. What's nice about these weekends, if you can go away with a group of guys and girls on a weekend, you really get to know people. Sure. And so he was at my dinner table. He made sure he rode with me. And he was at the back of the pack. I'm like a slow rider. So there are these guys, I think this is so funny. There are these guys who I call them task-oriented versus relationship-oriented. And they go to ride. And this one guy, I remember, he's like zooming past me, I'm like, you don't get it. You don't get it. And the smart guys are hanging back and riding with the women, and we're having great conversations. So anyway, and then, I needed a force for tennis, and he was there. And then they had this great amusement park in Wildwood, New Jersey. And so I wanted to go to the amusement park. I love amusement parks. And the group was going on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and it wasn't warm. It was cold. It was dark. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to go to the amusement park. So I tried to get a group together. And I wasn't really good about getting a group. My girlfriend said, okay, I'll go. And then when she realized it was Alan, me, and her, she's like, I'm not going. Just three's a crap.
Right.
What are you talking about? It's not a date. It's a date. No, it's not a date. It's a date. But what happened is we ended up, having a nice time and walked along the boardwalk. And the cutest thing he did was he took me to a fortune teller. And he paid for it.
Oh my goodness!
And I
one
went
of the psychic fortune tellers on the the amusement park.
Yeah. So I go in, and she looks at me, and of course she sees my hand without a ring. Of course she goes, "Oh well, you've had a tough time in love, haven't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "Your heart and your head haven't been together." I'm like, "Yeah." So it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Then I ended up with this guy. So, so he got, he was really good. He made sure we took the ferry over from Delaware to New Jersey, and he made sure he was on my boat.
Oh, how sweet.
So I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
So he was stalking me. Yes.
Yes. And women are so oblivious to it sometimes. They're like, what? He likes me?
He always liked me, but, never,
Yeah.
He had his issues, and I'm
sure.
Again, it's time.
And you knew that you'd met him 5 years ago, right? Like, so you forgot. Okay. So you didn't remember.
He came back to me.
Did he remember?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So he wanted to come by my store.
Oh.
And he never did.
Ooh.
He's a little shy.
Sure.
I don't know. So the other thing is I saw him with that same woman at an event. So I was helping out a friend, these kind of outdoors where they have the different vendors and the food, and they have craft people. And so I told my friend I'd help her, and I was like, helping them, sell tickets and stuff like that. And then I went around to the craft area because I had the clothing store and I'd like to bring accessories into my store. I saw him with that woman, and I'm like, oh, great, he's with her. Turns out they're just friends.
Oh.
My husband has a lot of women friends.
Right.
So you have to watch out what you assume.
Sure.
He had nothing better to do. The two of them hang out together. You don't know, right? So anyway, so it's funny. So he did follow up, and he did ask me out, and we did go on, subsequent dates. And I actually went out with the other guys there was two other guys that I met that weekend, but they fell by the wayside, and Alan was consistent, and as I realized we had a lot in common. I realized we really have similar backgrounds. We're both from the New York area. We have very similar values, and so yeah.
And he wanted to have a family too?
Yeah, so the whole thing is because of one of my last relationships, I've met a guy I really liked. He was a single father. He had 2 teenage girls. And I knew that I really wanted a family. I was really clear about that. And so after 3 months of dating him and getting pretty attached, I had the conversation, this is my goal. And he basically said, babies? You want babies? I'm done, And I had a tough choice. I could have been with him and been a stepmom, and we could have had a very nice life. But I chose to say, I really want to have a family, and this is what, a goal for me, and I want my own child. And so, you really have some paths to take, and one path takes you one way, and another path takes you another way, and it's hard. You have to make decisions. Yeah. And so I did.
And there's no such thing as mistakes, right? Like, you make a choice, and then you kind of have to live with it, and make choices from there, right?
Right. Well, you have, I think it's hard to look back, and the people who go either woulda, coulda, shoulda, people are not happy. Yeah. And you have to really look and say, this is my life. This is who I'm with. I have a wonderful husband. We'll be married 15 years this summer.
Congratulations. It's a big milestone.
5 years of fertility work.
Right.
To have my son. He is, the modern miracle. And, we have a nice life. It's not an easy life, but it's a nice life. And, I just really have someone who's there for me. And one of the telltale signs was, we we were in New York in 9/11.
Mm.
And we had just gone to New York. We had met in June. We really kind of connected in June. We decided in September. We both had different trips planned over the summer. And so we decided that if we come back and we still want to be with each other, then we would become exclusive.
Wow.
So, we came back and we did, in September. And then we went to New York so I could meet his sisters, and he met my mother. And so he got the last plane out on September 10th.
Wow.
And I was in New York because I was there for a buying trip.
Mm.
And so, as I don't, where you were, but I actually left my hotel, and they basically had no hotel rooms in New York.
Wow.
But I ended up meeting one of the women from the buying. One of the ladies working in the area put me up, and I was able to get on computer, and I was able to get a hold, because the cells weren't working. And Alan had, helped me get home. He helped me find an Amtrak train, to get back.
Wow.
And he was there to get me, because I had to go where my car wasn't. So he had to take me where my car was at the airport. So he picked me up at the train station. So, I always say you really have to find someone who's going to be there in the tough times.
I know, right? The tough times. If you haven't gone through a crisis together, you really don't know, because emotional resilience and resilience are something that you just can't, first of all, you have to develop it within yourself, right? And then find a partner who is that for you. And, and it's not about testing them. It's really just getting through the hard times.
I think, I have time frames in my programs. A lot
Sure.
of it depends on your age.
Right.
I was engaged within 6 months and married within a year, but I was 41 and 42
Right.
when I got married, and we had
And you
goals.
were really clear on what you wanted. And yeah.
So a lot of my clients are in that space,
Sure.
that's kind of motivated to marry thing. And, but I have, 30-year-old clients who I say, if you can spend a year with someone, spend a year with someone.
Yeah. I have a 28-year-old client who met her dream guy, and they got married like 6 months later. It's crazy, but she'd done so much of this inner work. She'd gone through the bad, she like really committed to clearing all her inner stuff, so that she, like, when she met this guy, she's like, no, he's the one, and they are so good together. So I do agree that, you can, if you really have that desire and you're really committed, you could. I mean, it's all divine timing, obviously, but, like, kind of what you do and you did was really support in fast tracking as much as you can, and being clear what you want, I think that clarity is so important.
Right. So you have to want the same things at the same time.
Sure.
And then, and I think, I thought I was clear about my goals, but there are people who are not honest with themselves. So maybe they don't really know, they say, oh yeah, well, I'd like to have a family. I mean, the biggest heartbreak I've seen with my friends and even some of my clients is the guys say they want to get married and have a family. And then they turn around and they say, you know what, I really don't want this. And I think it's very selfish, unless they don't really think too much ahead of time and they have to be there to really make that decision. Some people are a go as you flow kind of person, and some of us are more, future planners. So it's really knowing who you're with and what you're dealing with. And
action matters, I love the way Alan just kept showing up for you. It's such to me, it's almost like this fatherly energy. I'm not saying he was like that with you, but he just already had this like very caring, nurturing, showing up kind of thing. My husband's like that too. And it's like, it's so easy to imagine having a family with him because he's just like that, and some people are just.
I'm right with my son, and he's very involved in his, he's not one of those dads that are off doing stuff, and I see girlfriends, and they're doing the bulk of the raising of the children, and my husband is we really share the responsibility.
That's so beautiful. So what's your advice right now for women who are single, or men, like how did you stay committed, and how did you keep your faith and belief that true love is possible?
I have to say, when I turned 40, I didn't really mention this, I actually had to relax.
Relaxing.
And
So important.
I got to the place with my coach where whatever happens, happens.
Okay.
And kind of like, yes, I do. These are my goals. And it's not like I'm not going to work on them. I'm not going to sit home and hope that somebody is going to show up my door. But I did, I did kind of become a lot more calm about the whole process.
Yeah. Just surrender.
I was kind of, I think, frenetic, and that pushes people away.
Sure.
Whereas when you're kind of know yourself and you have that sense of calm and like that, I think that draws people in. And I actually started really attracting better quality of men when I did that. So that's one piece, is to be really comfortable with who you are and what you want. Okay. And so to get steeped in who you are and what you have to offer to a relationship instead of the gremlins or the whatnots. We go through a whole process where we kind of helps people, my clients, get really focused on that piece. So they can go out there and know that if it doesn't work out, the rejection is not rejection. It's really about fit. Yeah.
A no with someone is a yes with someone else.
Right, exactly. And you just got to keep out there. And so I think it's a numbers game with quality numbers. You don't just randomly email guys, but if you see that there's something there, you see that your values are similar, your goals are similar, and you don't see anything that's kind of like what I call the deal breakers, then reach out. I think women today need to kind of get on a guy's radar. Because we're all busy. Oh my God, with our faces and our phones most of the time. I mean, and these apps, they drive me crazy.
I know, right?
I do know that I would say 35 and under, they are having success with the apps. My nephew met his girlfriend on Tinder, and I know people who have met on some of the major apps.
Sure.
However, it seems like my clients who are about 40 and over, the apps are not working because they're meeting such unserious men and they're just looking for a good time and a hookup and whatever. So, I do recommend more traditional sites. I have a whole system that I take my clients through, but more traditional sites for those who are looking for serious relationships over, I'd say 38. Doesn't mean it can't happen. I mean, I think more and more people are, and the websites kind of push you towards the apps, whether it be, the JDates and the matches and stuff like that. They all have apps now. But you are like a kid in the candy store. Next.
Yeah. I think it's also your approach, it's like if you're a quality-minded person and you can approach things like this with the quality mindset and methodology, then anything could work. It's just, but I agree with you. I think we're in we want things to happen so quickly. We're in such an instant gratification kind of society.
Yeah. The process, sometimes it's not the first person. A lot of times, they go through like a 6-month, 3-month, 6-month relationship.
Yeah.
Work out. We have to regroup. We have to look at what didn't work and what wasn't working in that relationship, and then they go back out, and it turns out the next one is the one that they need.
Totally, and they learn what they needed to from this past relationship. Sometimes some relationships get you ready for your real relationship.
Well, if you look, like I said, it's a feedback loop, and
yes,
you'll get it right this time. If you look at it, it's a heart that's a target, and misses, and then you get it right.
Yeah.
But it is, if you look back, if I look at my relationship history, I was getting closer and closer and closer. So just know that you just came out of a breakup. You're that much closer to meeting your husband.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Wow, Amy, thank you so much. I feel so heart open and excited, for love in general and
everybody
what's possible.
Deserves love.
Everyone deserves love. Yeah.
And it's there for you. You just have to keep working and figuring out what's, and get yourself out there the best way you can, and be true to yourself. Like what's going to work for you, because you're a unique person. So what's going to work for one person, one woman, your best friend, may not work for you.
I know.
Why I think, coming to a coach like yourself or me, we're here to help, and we kind of shorten that learning curve.
Yes, totally.
cute. He said to me, he goes, well, I could have done it on my own. And he came to me actually when he was in his late 20s. He was kind of advanced beyond his years, in my opinion. And he was so into learning and personal growth and everything. And he goes, and he met his girlfriend, and he said, that could have, I'm sorry, that's my husband's face, but that it could have happened, but but I would have been 40 by the time I met, it really worked.
Sure.
Out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I think just our own experiences, our work with different clients, understanding of psychology, and, and it's like, it's kind of cool. I was telling a client the other day, I'm like, I kind of love my day because all I do is read stuff on love. I read books. I mean, I'm like, this is like all I think about, and it's kind of nice to be in connection and mentored by someone who that's all they do. And if that's what you really desire,
just think about how much time you spent in trade and going to school. And I mean, I got, degrees out of the yin yang and, put a lot of money and time, but I never learned about relationships. And I took them.
They don't teach it in school.
And my parents had a good relationship, but I assumed every relationship was going to be like that.
Yeah.
And the ex-husband was like the total opposite. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the knowledge. I had to go and learn how to communicate and how to be, and how to really get so people are going to respond to you in the right way and not the wrong way. So a lot of times what I'm sure you're doing, client, is we're tweaking things and saying, well, if you said it this way, you would get a much better response. Or why don't you try this? Or, let's try see what, and so, I find one of my jobs is to make the road smoother for you, to make it easier and make it happen and not be so many bumps in the road, as you
And it's also like when you're working with someone one-on-one, you can relax the way you relaxed, and it just feels great to just feel supported and know that,
has your back.
Someone has your back. Exactly. You're not making
someone who doesn't, the people we know, they think of us of who we were.
Right.
Our roles and our places in our families, and they may not always serve us. So to have some objective who can really reflect to you and really show you, what's the best, to really pull out what's best for you and what's the best in you.
Totally. Live your potential. Life is short. Great. Well, thank you so much, Amy. And your website is Motivated to Marry, right? Motivatedtomarry.com. Awesome. Well,
very good. It's so always fun to talk to you.
I know. This has been wonderful. Thank you.